What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic. And with the recent tragic incident at Epic Universe where a guest rode Stardust Racers and tragically lost their lives, we're still waiting on lots of the information to come out from the investigation in terms of exactly what happened here. But one thing that has brought lots of questions from the comments and other people covering theme parks is what is the potential fallout from this incident in regards to Universal Studios, potentially just this ride specifically, or potentially other rides at Universal? And does this have further implications for the entire theme park industry going forward after this tragic incident? So in this video, we're going to talk about what the potential fallout from this incident very well could be, and will there be any changes at Universal Studios in general, but specifically about Stardust Racers itself. So that's what we're going to talk about in the video today. Do you guys think that Stardust Racers will change? I'm sure this is going to end up in court. This may take years, and I'm sure Stardust Racers at some point is going to open again. I don't believe this ride is going to close down forever. Maybe you guys think it will. But what we might see coming out of this and how this could affect like other roller coasters at Universal and really probably worldwide potentially.
Prior to this guy's passing, there have been several cases with this particular ride that there have been issues where people were coming off feeling chest pain, numbness, injury to the neck. Actually, again, I said this before, but I'll definitely say it again, where when I was down in the hospital for my kidney stones down in Orlando, someone came in with back issues and whiplash from Stardust Racers. So it's definitely something to be looked at. But I think this is something I feel like that they will keep the ride unless there's a continuing pattern that issue after issue after issue. But I do think there will be modifications to this ride, possibly with the vehicles themselves, the harnesses, and not even just this ride. I think, honestly, moving forward with whatever is going to replace Rip Ride Rocket and the roller coaster that we're getting over here with Fast and Furious, I mean, I think Universal's definitely going to have to look into how they do the restraints with these really top thrilling roller coasters.
Here's the thing with this, right? Now that we have the main situation where the gentleman unfortunately lost his life, you're going to have a lot of people, like Conductor saying in the chat, come out of the woodwork. Go, oh yeah, I got dizzy that day back in May when I rode it. All these people are going to start suing now, right? And here's the thing: this ride, obviously, I trust Universal. I do. I trust Universal that they follow the safety code and all that stuff. My concern, though, with all of this is that as a company, is Universal going to want to continue to take a beating in court over a lot of this kind of stuff for an attraction? So something's going to have to give here, because I see this as kind of the beginning of a lot of stuff down the road. And either they're going to have to do what George was suggesting, is modify the attraction. Hopefully they don't shut it down. We've had issues out here in California where they've done stuff like that. We used to have a Jolly Trolley out here in Toontown that used to kind of go through the land and everything, and people got hurt, they sued, what have you, and now it's no more. They got rid of it. So it's not unprecedented for these lawsuits to occur and a company will get rid of the attraction. I hope that's not the case here. And also on the PR front, even if this is my opinion, but even if Universal is correct and they did nothing wrong and this attraction is 100% safe, having these attorneys out there in the media and doing all these pressers about how this ride is so unsafe and yada, 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 it's tough. It's a PR hit, because even if the accusations are false and incorrect, you're still going to have a segment of the population believing it, because you have a lot of normies. They don't dig into this stuff like we do here, right? They're going to look at the headline and they're going to go, oh, I'm not going on that thing, So unfortunately, what I'm saying? So it's going to take, Universal is going to take a hit both on the PR, in court probably too. It's expensive to fight these things, and it's a tough situation. And also people can say, well, Universal, they can just settle. But the problem with settling, though, too, is that unfortunately people see that as an act of an admission of guilt.
I think they're kind of stuck, because I will say Universal, so there's still an investigation ongoing. Universal made a statement to their team members that said the ride functioned as it was supposed to that night. And then the investigators even came out and said, like, it's technically being investigated as a manslaughter case due to the type of death. It's just kind of where that investigation is categorically. But they came out and actually said they agreed with Universal that the ride, there was no catastrophic, like, nothing came off the ride. The ride didn't, like, do something weird that night. It operated as it was intended to operate. But I think they're kind of in a tough spot because if you settle, you're right, like, it's going to kind of look maybe bad. But I don't think they also want to take, a deceased family to court and fight it in court. You know what I mean? So they're kind of in a spot where, in these places Disney makes settlements all the time. So I think it will likely end in a settlement if I were to guess, given the lawyer that they have hired, which is Ben Crump, and he is a very high-end, like, civil rights attorney. He was the attorney with the family that young boy died at the Icon Park in Orlando a few years ago. And that one there was a lot of issues there that they passed through all the safety stuff. But Slimer, what do you think about this?
Well, I think the problem that Universal Studios is running into, and actually I believe the lawyer pointed it out in the statement, Ben Crump, that is that he's looking for culpability, essentially. And even though, the Universal Studios has all the warning signs, and despite the fact that this guy had a known medical issue, which is that he was a paraplegic, culpability is really what matters here. And the reason I do think it's going to go to settlements is because Universal did something which honestly goes against standard protocol for the team members that are loading guests onto the ride systems themselves. And that's that, if I believe, and I could be mistaken, but I believe that the guest has to be able to move themselves unaided or aided by a family member, but not aided by a team member, from a wheelchair to the actual roller coaster train themselves. Now, in this particular instance, from what I understand, the guest was actually moved with the help of a team member.
That's what his attorney is claiming. Team member helped him onto the coaster. But yeah, you're right. They're not supposed to touch. I've had a few team members reach out to me and they said it is a huge no-no. Like, you are not supposed to help anybody that is disabled onto a ride. But yeah, that is what they're claiming.
Well, and that's something that I think is going to be easily proven or disproven, because even though phones aren't allowed on the attraction, Universal has cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, Jared, if you could, I sent you a chat GPT where I actually found some case studies here, because I think this is really pertinent to what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, so we got access versus safety. You have the ADA line. This was a case, Access Now versus Walt Disney World. Disability advocates sued Disney, arguing that Disney's ride restrictions, excluding some disabled riders, violated the ADA. The court sided with Disney, as they cited safety comes first. Disney demonstrated that certain rides required muscle control, balance, or limb use to avoid catastrophic injury. And the court held that the ADA does not require allowing access if it poses a genuine safety risk, which is a whole other wrinkle in this, because like you said, he did have a spinal cord injury. There are numerous warnings on this ride. If you have back issues, you have neck issues, even if you are on blood pressure medication, they say not to ride. There's obviously heart issues. So there's plenty of warnings on this about if you have these ailments, do not ride this. So that is one of them there. Number two is when safety warnings weren't enough. You have McCurry versus Chevy Chase Bank and Six Flags, and a rider with a prosthetic leg was injured on a Six Flags roller coaster. The ride had restrictions requiring secure limb bracing, but the prosthetic compromised his restraint. The lawsuit alleged negligence because Six Flags employees allowed him to ride despite posted requirements. The case underscored if staff overrode or ignored restrictions, the company can be found negligent. And then the third one you have is Campbell versus Universal Studios in 2010. A paraplegic guest was denied access to a ride requiring torso control. The guest sued for discrimination under the ADA. Universal did win that. The court ruled that the denial was not discriminatory since safety-based exclusions are permitted under federal law. Those are some of the case studies out there are things that have been set up a precedent in court. I think if you're looking at this, if a team member did help him onto the ride, I think that is where they will focus this on.
Exactly, because it creates legal culpability. Now, Brian in the chat says that is what the attorney was claiming, is that a team member helped them on is not true, because I'm assuming Brian's a team member.
He is a team member. Yeah.
Yep. So Brian, if they're impressing on their employees to not touch, this person is going to create this legal liability loophole that the attorney is going to take advantage of. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see what evidence comes forth, because if he's claiming somebody helped them on, whether verbally or physically, then they have a case. But if not, unfortunately, this is going to be strictly on the family and the guest that unfortunately was killed in this particular instance.
Yeah, and Remy D even said, if I can find it, she said, I remember Disney cast members refusing to help my obese friend with fitting into a ride. They asked that we help him.
Right.
And I have seen that before, where, some people think it's mean, but it actually is for this situation. Because and I actually know this, my wife used to run she ran a student housing property. And whenever it would snow and ice in Missouri, they were told, do not put salt down, do not even get any snowplowers out there, because if you do that, if you're trying to help the situation out and somebody falls, then the culpability is on the company. Whereas if it just snows and there's ice, it's just nature, which sounds crazy that you're trying to help people, but this is how the law goes. So that's why they cannot, or they're not supposed to help them. I agree with Brian. I've had 4 or 5 team members message me and say, I do not believe that a team member helped him onto the ride, because they said that is like nailed into team members, like, do not do that. So if they did that, obviously I think that team member probably would lose their job. And I think then you're talking millions that the company's going to lose, probably, because that's what they would focus on.
But what's interesting from the case law is that if you look at cases 1 and 3, Universal Studios could have completely avoided this situation had they, let's again hypothetically assume that the team member did, which again we don't know for a fact until the evidence surfaces. But it is not considered discrimination to not assist, or to somebody that has a medical condition that should not or cannot ride that ride, as case law has proven. So any lawsuits of discrimination that were made against Universal or Disney or any other theme park company were actually dismissed, because the care and the care of the guest takes precedence over any sort of assumed or proposed discriminatory behavior.
And what they're alleging, just this picture, this is of Stardust Racers, of course, but is that they're saying he hit, we're assuming his head on this metal bar here. And so I think they're also going after the team member that may have helped, is what they're claiming. But they would also be, undoubtedly, this is a Mack Rides attraction. They would be then going after Universal and Mack Rides, basically claiming that they have an unsafe attraction, would be the other part of this as well. Which is, I think that gets interesting, because if that does happen and say that they are found culpable, these lap bars are kind of the new thing. I mean, Velocicoaster's got that way. There's a lot of, and I know Conductor talked about it and somebody else about, could this affect Hollywood Drift that's coming out there in Universal Hollywood, because that's going to be a lap bar. So does this mean the lap bar type of rides would they have to change them? And I think this is the fallout you're thinking of here, is like, I imagine, even if Universal comes out of this and they're found that they didn't do anything wrong, I still imagine they may make some changes to this ride and maybe other ones.
Yeah, I would assume so, Jared, because number one, like I said before too, like they're gonna take a PR hit with this thing, regardless of whether they were found to be doing no wrong, having no wrongdoing, right? Even if the ride comes back as 100% safe, they're still going to take a black eye, right? With the PR, they're going to have to do something to sort of like make good with that PR, to sort of say, hey, look, you know what? We had this incident, in an abundance of caution, we decided to update our restraints. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have to make some sort of move like that, even if this wasn't their fault. I think it would be something they would have to do for obviously for optics reasons. You know what I'm saying? Now,
Yeah.
if it was the cause though of the gentleman's death, then they have to. They have no choice. But I don't know. I would find it hard to believe that they wouldn't follow code, right? And this is a brand new. It's not like an old ride. This is something that just opened in May. So I don't know. I would be very, very surprised if this thing didn't meet code. I don't know. Am I being overly?
Well, I feel like it has to. I mean, the way it works in these major theme parks at Disney and Universal, and I'm not sure about other parks, but they don't have state inspectors because they do their own inspections, but they have to report injuries and things that happen. And I think on some level, you still have inspectors coming in various points to check these rides out, but they're tested every single day. We all know this because we are into theme parks, but every morning they're testing all these rides, and this is why a lot of times you won't see a ride open sometimes. An established ride is because they ran the test and something came back and it wasn't running right, and they have to go in and fix it. So they're always testing these rides. And if the situation is nothing, Universal saying the ride operated as it was supposed to, then the only thing I suppose on Universal's end, again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just guessing from a dude that is from Missouri, but if Universal built the ride to code and Mack Ride built it, does that then fall? I mean, it probably would maybe fall on Universal, but then it would be the code that allowed this ride. If it passed everything, then you're talking about, do they update code to make changes?
Right. And here's the other thing too. If you could bring up, Jared, please bring up Jersey Kevin 27. The distance between the rows of seats are way too close. That's interesting, Kevin, that you brought that up, because that was actually something that I was kind of noticing too when looking at this picture. They do seem pretty close. Now, to be fair, though, I haven't been on this attraction.
I've been on this attraction, and George has been on this attraction as well. Now, when I sat on the front row exclusively, so I really can't speak for my experience sitting behind a chair. But just upon this, I do get the impression that it's close. Is it too close? I really don't know. You would think that the engineers would factor that into the actual engineering. I think these are safety precautions, which you would think would be well documented and well practiced in an industry that has been making roller coasters for over 100 years. I mean, the safety precautions are very strenuous. They're very strenuous for the roller coaster industry. There's so many liabilities. I mean, the manufacturer for the drop ride, where the poor guest was unfortunately killed in 2023, I believe. I mean, it ended up being a $310 million settlement.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the safety precautions are extremely high. Are there faults and gaps? Unfortunately, when you're manufacturing ride systems like this, which are complex, despite the amount of knowledge in engineering safety data, yeah, I mean, it's very possible for there to be instances where a very unfortunate incident can slip through the cracks. So, I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. Again, we don't have all the facts. Right. So, I mean, we can't say one or another. I think what Jersey's saying is a possibility, and it's a possibility I think they're going to take into consideration when
well, yeah, 100%, Summer. And again, this is us speculating, but there might be something there with that. Who knows? Who knows?
I'm for sure. I wonder if how many people they reached out that actually was on the ride with him at that particular time, not know what was going on, but maybe was there a witness that may have seen something come off the vehicle? Did they see something coming off the track? Did they see him kind of moving in a way where he's trying to get someone's attention? I'm very curious, and that's probably something that won't be released to the public just yet. They may still be trying to locate these people and interview them, but I'm very curious to see if anyone noticed anything that was out of the ordinary. And I know when you're on a roller coaster, especially something like this, you're not paying attention to any of that. You're just in the moment, you're enjoying the ride, but there could possibly be someone out there that noticed something.
I do wonder, even if Universal is found free and clear of all this, I could see ride manufacturers really starting to look at maybe like the spacing of the rows even. I feel like you can, the lap, and somebody said in the comments, I think it was Will Johnson, the lap bars are nothing new on roller coasters.
Yeah.
They've been around for 100 years.
Yeah. So it seems like this may just been a freak accident, and maybe there's more restrictions on wheelchair bound people not being able to ride this or certain types of roller coasters because this is wheelchair accessible. Maybe
I'm gonna play devil's advocate just a little bit with that.
Yeah.
Now, yes, lap bars have been around for, since the beginning of time with roller coasters. But for these particular coasters, I'm starting to see a pattern, not even just with Universal, but just manufacturers and amusement parks and theme parks. It seems like the coasters that really should be having the pull down harness it seems like they're kind of moving away from that to bring more of a intense G-force feel where you just have a
That
bar.
like weightlessness feeling they get on the top
Yeah.
of those
Like,
crests.
because when I look at Stardust, and even when I look at Velocicoaster, back in the day, like in the 90s, early 2000s, if they were to make a coaster like that, in my opinion, I would have thought that they would have done the pull-down restraints then rather than just the bar over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trend you're seeing with modern coasters of doing that for that reason. It's like that weightlessness feeling, a little bit more thrill because like you feel like you're coming out of your seat and it catches you. I do there that would be curious about this ride if that's the change they made here, or maybe they've changed the ride vehicles itself. Like I don't think Stardust Racers will shut down. Some people have speculated that, so I don't imagine they're going to scrap the whole ride. It would probably just be, and most of these incidents that do happen, there are some that shut down, certain smaller theme parks sometimes, but I don't think that would happen here. I think you would likely just see some changes to maybe it's the restraints, maybe it's the ride vehicles, maybe they slow it down. Like you could see stuff like that happening here on top of increased warnings for people, and maybe they make changes on who is able to ride it. But because you got to think Disney's looking at this too. Now Disney doesn't have the thrilling roller coasters that Universal does, but I'm sure they're looking at this and updating their protocols too.
Yeah, that's not to say they haven't had their own issues, though. I mean, a guest died on Thunder Mountain. You wouldn't think a guest would die on Thunder Mountain. I mean, unfortunately, the cart derailed from the track, and that's why they're putting in track in the Thunder Mountain Railroad over here at the Magic Kingdom, is because that track is infinite years old.
Yeah.
But with regard to Velocicoaster and Hollywood, what is it called? Hollywood Fast and the Furious ride. I think that unless somebody brings a suit due to an injury for those coasters, I don't personally believe that they're going to make any changes, because why would they make that? Even if you wanted to get ahead of an issue, there's really no reason to unless somebody brings suit. Because what you're doing is you're admitting fault in design by trying to be proactive and change the safety harness or whatever. You definitely don't want to do that, because then people can ask for more money. People can really target you then and say, hey, Intamin and Universal Studios are building deadly roller coasters. How do we know that? Because they're changing the safety restraints on their latest and greatest roller coaster. So that means that they know that these have inherent safety flaw. So a suit has to be brought. Yeah, a suit has to be brought in order for them to change the safety restraints. Otherwise, it would be admission of guilt.
That's a great point, Slimer. You're right. If they start changing things up, it's like, oh, well, so it wasn't safe before?
It is kind of an admission of guilt. Like, yeah.
Knock on wood that if there's a pattern that God forbid, I'm not saying I want it to happen, but if something were to go down when they open Fast and Furious up at Hollywood, then it's actually going to give them probable cause to say, oh my gosh, okay, now this is two roller coasters under Universal's wing on both coasts that have these kind of ride vehicles and how they're restrained. Do they then change it after that?
I think it depends on the conditions, right? So like if these incidents happen, if and only if a certain combinations of conditions, I think they will make the changes, right? I mean, because if it happens like it's two guests with medical concerns that would have precluded them from riding. Then those conditions are so rare, it wouldn't justify them changing the safety harnesses of the ride systems.
Yeah, more so like if it was something were to go down, God forbid, like if it had to involve the actual vehicles.
Yeah, like let's say somebody in perfectly good health, like you or me, ride it, and then there's an issue. Yeah, I think they're going to look at that and go, okay, this isn't something that's a matter of this is a non-conditional problem now where safety restraints are causing injury or fatal injuries with guests, because both of us have completely different conditions compared to the gentleman that unfortunately died.
Now, one horse has a great point. I remember this incident. Big Thunder in California derailed because Disneyland's maintenance was poor in the late 90s and early 2000s. A piece of track in Space Mountain failed one morning during testing, and Disney rebuilt it in 2005. Now, he's right about this, or she. I don't know. I'm sorry, one horse. I'm not sure if you're he or she, but they're right about this because we had a really rough time during that time period. I believe Paul Pressler was the president back then still, and the maintenance at Disneyland was really, really bad, and they did not keep that coaster up to standard, and the connector, between the cars came off, and the
Oh,
whole thing derailed, and it killed a guy. And I mean, that was terrible. And then there was also, I don't know if you remember One Horse, but there was also an accident on the Columbia. The guy was standing there, and the cleat or whatever they call him from the ship fell and hit the guy in the head. So that was a really, really dark time for Disneyland. They were not maintaining stuff back then.
But
So
One Horse
it was
also continues on. Like, neither incident made people stop riding those, but that was before TikTok, YouTube, etc.
Mhm.
And that does play a big
social
part.
media.
You know, when Big Brother is watching and you have all eyes, but not even just all eyes, all cameras on any angle of anything, it's just, you know, it gets out there. You know, it's almost like you don't even need a news station anymore. Like, us as the fans, as the consumers, we're basically reporting on all this stuff.
A lot of times the things that happen are the thing that happened in Icon Park. They had adjusted the young man that died, unfortunately. I believe he was bigger. He was a big kid. And they had changed. There was something in the restraint system that was not being maintained like it was. And the young girl that passed away, which that was horrible. She was sitting on top of the seatbelt. She wasn't buckled in, so they didn't properly check before the ride went away. So usually you're talking about somebody made a lapse, they didn't check something, or the maintenance wasn't done. This one here would be like one of the first ones I can remember where if it turns out that nothing happened on this ride, it's just the ride itself, which I think would be, again, you're talking code. If it was built to code, I don't know really where the fault lies here. If Universal builds something, the state says, yeah, you're good to go, and then something happens, it's like, I'm sure that probably still falls on manufacturer, but then, you know, it's somewhere the code would have to change. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I felt it was a very good discussion on the topic from different viewpoints, from people who are, you know, cover theme parks, talk about these things a lot, and some potential fallout and outcomes we could see following this very tragic incident that has happened over at Epic Universe. But either way, that is going to be it, though, for this video. So if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think the potential fallout could be from this very tragic incident that happened at Epic Universe? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.